hearing of March 15th, 2018. For those of you who are here, perhaps for your first time, I want to give you a bit of an orientation to the Public Improvement Commission process. Items that are brought before this body have two hearings in this room. The first hearing is one which is called the new business hearing. That is one where a petitioner can present the initial concept. There's an opportunity for public comment. No vote is taken on that issue at that time. The second hearing also occurs in this room. It is called the public hearing. At that public hearing, this body will take a vote to either accept, continue, or reject a particular petition. We start our public hearings with what is called the continued public hearing items. Our first item is on a joint petition by OH&BH Owner LLC and the Massachusetts Port Authority for the discontinuance of any and all rights to travel the public may have had within a portion of C Street, a public way in South Boston, located generally beneath the intersection of Summer Street and World Trade Center Avenue. This was new business on February 15th, 2018, and had its first public hearing on March 1st, 2018. This is as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Discontinuance Plan, C Street, South Boston, one sheet dated January 2nd, 2018. Morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Rebecca Lee. I'm an attorney with Mintz Levin. We represent the developer, which has a development agreement with Massport to develop Massport Lease Parcel D2 into the Omni Boston Seaport Hotel. At the request of Massport, we are requesting a continuance of this public hearing until April 12th, 2018, so that Massport can determine certain issues internally, and we're prepared to come back to the Commission at that time for a vote.
That's 4 weeks. Any questions or comments about the Commission? Amy or Todd? Okay. Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue this item until April 12th, 2018.
I'll make a motion to continue agenda item number 1 for 4 weeks, April 12th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the public hearing section. Our first item is on a petition by 500 Boylston and 222 Berkeley Owner DE LLC for the acceptance of pedestrian easements adjacent to the following public ways in Boston proper: Clarendon Street on its northeasterly side between Boylston Street and St. James Avenue, St. James Avenue on its northwesterly side between Berkeley Street and Clarendon Street. This was new business on March 1st, 2018, and this is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Pedestrian Easement Plan, Clarendon Street, St. James Avenue, Boston proper, 2 sheets, dated January 23rd, 2018. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commission. Thank you for listening, hearing us today. My name is Matthew Haverty. I'm the Vice President of Oxford Properties Group. We are excited, as we discussed before, we're excited to present this project to you as we bought the buildings in 2015. They occupy an entire city block, and we felt that the previous owners had let that dilapidate a little bit, and really we want to make sure that this street becomes a prominent section of Boston and is shown that way. So we view this property as a long-term owner. We want to be here for years within Boston. We want to make sure that we invest heavily in our properties. So we appreciate all of your consideration, and hopefully we'll field any questions you might have.
John, if you can sort of give a sort of high-level overview of both the pedestrian easements and the specific repairs, and then we'll dive into the easements.
Okay. As Matt indicated, this is the entire block, the 500 Boylston Street block, bounded by Boylston Street to the north, St. James to the south, Berkeley to the west. The sidewalks that are out there are in very poor condition, broken pavers, patching, non-compliant cross-sections. So my client is committed to reconstructing the entire public realm surrounding the entire block. It's gone through it's gone through a permitting process with the BPDA and review and approval of the materials, as well as with the Disabilities Commission. And essentially, we are providing an accessible pathway around the entire building, which is not there now, as well as new wheelchair ramps and safe crossings. There will be new granite pavers installed, new pervious pavers. It's designed to be in compliance with the Complete Street guidelines, as well as an accessible concrete pathway. There are still some areas that are non-compliant, and we have a variance application in before the MAAB, and their hearing is scheduled for next week. We met with Tom Hopkins from the MAAB a week or two ago, and he understands the application. We don't anticipate any issues or any problems with that. As far as the variance goes, that is to ensure safe and accessible access within a public easement. And on St. James Street, it's Clarendon Street, Berkeley Street, the 5-foot wide easement. And that will, again, ensure safe and accessible access. And on Clarendon Street, the easement is a little bit wider. It's 13.5 feet wide, but provides safe and accessible easement between St. James and Boylston Street. We have sent out the various notifications to 22 city agencies and utilities. We have received their comments, and we've provided the city with an engineer's report. Construction management plan was submitted to transportation some time ago. We received comments a week or so ago, and we've now engaged Howard Stein Hudson to prepare a construction management plan. We'll be resubmitting that to the city in the next week or so to ensure that you have a strong engineered plan for traffic, for safe traffic operations, as well as pedestrian operations during the time of construction.
So as I stated last time at the last meeting, this is going to be an occupied building during this process. Fire review, NFPA 241, where we stand with that?
So that was part of that meeting as well, is to make sure that we incorporated those comments. So that is, I believe there's a meeting set up with BFD, or once we have this next set of drawings, we'll be bringing it to them to review.
I strongly urge you to get them to them early, get that ironed out.
Perfect. We'll do. Appreciate that.
You said you are applying for a variance with the mass access board. Is it for segments of the sidewalk that is within the public space or within the areas that you are granting the city an easement? Which area is it?
It's primarily within the public space. We have very very wide sidewalks here, up to 20 feet wide. We've ensured a safe, accessible access around the perimeter of the site, at minimally at least 6 feet wide. But there are areas primarily driven by electrical vaults that are cost prohibitive to adjust those vaults. And in those areas, primarily from the path of travel to the gutter line, we have grades that are, some areas have 3 to 4%. And that's the purpose for the variance.
So if the variance for some reason is denied,
Right.
what would be the fallback position?
Well, first of all, we don't anticipate that to be denied, but should that happen,
Since you are asking for us to vote before the variance is granted, what is your backup position?
our back position is we'd have to put a pause on the construction, revisit it, and revisit the commission with.
So you understand that this
Yes.
vote taken by this commission is success?
Yes, it's a contingent.
contingent.
This approval will be contingent on the MAAB variance.
And the resulting sidewalk widths on Clarendon and on St. James that you'd be able to achieve with the pedestrian easements, how wide will those be?
On St. James, it's a 5-foot wide easement to ensure a 6-foot wide concrete sidewalk. Clarendon Street easement is 13.5 feet wide because we have this planter bed here, and path of travel is behind that, but the street line falls slightly below.
Other questions or comments on the pedestrian easement? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the pedestrian easement contingent on the approval by MAAB.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by 500 Boylston and 222 Berkeley, owner DE LLC, for the acceptance of pedestrian easements on Clarendon Street and St. James Avenue, as read into the record by the chair, and contingent upon approval of the variance. As shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, pedestrian easement plan, Clarendon Street, St. James Avenue, Boston proper, 2 sheets dated January 23rd, 2018.
Second.
All in favor? So moved. Our next item is on a petition by 500 Boylston and 222 Berkeley, owner DE LLC, for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Boston proper, consisting of curb, roadway, sidewalk, and pedestrian ramp reconstruction, as well as new and relocated specialty pavement, street trees, street lighting infrastructure, irrigation infrastructure, storm drain infrastructure, and decorative metal inlays. The locations are Boylston Street on its southeasterly side at address number 500, located between Berkeley Street and Clarendon Street. Berkeley Street on its southwesterly side at address number 222, located between Boylston Street and St. James Avenue. Clarendon Street on its northeasterly side between Boylston Street and St. James Avenue. St. James Avenue on its northwesterly side between Berkeley Street and Clarendon Street. This was new business on March 1st, 2018. And this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repairs Plan, St. James Avenue, Berkeley Street, Boylston Street, Clarendon Street, 500 Boylston Street, Back Bay, 5 sheets, dated March 2018. Matthew and John.
Good morning, Commissioner. John Schmidt with Niche Engineering. So now that the easements are approved, we have the specific repairs, which is really the materials and design of the reconstructed sidewalks. These sidewalks on all 4 streets are designed in compliance with the complete street guidelines, where we provide safe and accessible concrete pathway access. We have pervious pavers along the gutter line, and then we have street trees as well. We do have pavers that are intermingled within the design. And again, it's been approved by the BPDA as well as the Disabilities Commission. And we are reconstructing the ramps along Boylston Street on the opposite side to ensure that that too is in compliance with the city's guidelines.
And we discussed this in new business, but just for the public hearing, the COPD is comfortable with the pavers in this section as part of this project?
What is our status with the maintenance agreement?
So the maintenance agreement will come after we have received a variance and know that this is going to move forward. It's 100% maintained by them.
And this, Tom, if you can estimate it as to the status of the maintenance agreement?
Sorry, I didn't hear it till the
The
last part.
status of the maintenance agreement?
We're in the process to be finalized.
And as part of this project, you'll be rebuilding the crossings of Boylston Street at both Clarendon and Berkeley?
That's correct.
Okay, on both sides of,
On both sides.
So if this vote will be a contingent vote based on the approvals by the Mass Access Board?
other questions about the specific repair plan?
I'd commend the project proponents for incorporating the porous pavers and the green infrastructure to help the street trees.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you guys as we go through this process, so we appreciate all the support.
Junior Tubb? Members of the public? I'll entertain a motion on this item contingent on approval by MAB.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by 500 Boylston and 222 Berkeley owner LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways proper, consisting of curb, roadway, sidewalk, and pedestrian ramp reconstruction, as well as new and relocated specialty pavement, street trees, street lighting, infrastructure, irrigation infrastructure, storm drain infrastructure, and decorative metal inlays. All is read into the record by the chair and as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, specific repairs, St. James Avenue, Berkeley Street, Boylston Street, Clarendon Street, 500 Boylston Street, Back Bay, 5 sheets dated March 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Our next item is on a petition by OG West Campus Land LLC, parcel 2A-3, for the layout approval of a new private way open to public travel to be known as Field Sparrow Way in West Roxbury, intersecting West Main Street on its south side, located generally east of Deering Road. This was new business on March 1st, 2018. And this is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Layout Approval Plan, Field Sparrow Way, Private Way, Open to Public Travel, West Roxbury, 4 sheets, dated February 7th, 2018.
Commissioners, my name is Kevin Wright from VHB. I'm here with Eric Van Dusen from the New Boston Fund representing the ownership. We're here to present the Field Sparrow Way layout plan for your approval. Field Sparrow Way is located in the city. It's in the Olmsted Green Project. It's a private way open to public travel, which we have come to previously for to lay out previous roads, which will be tied to public roadways in West Main Street. With the necessary agencies and done all the necessary mailings. At this time, we have four sheets. The first represents the first leg of Field Sparrow Way, which is 2 10-foot travel lanes, 8-foot parking, 5-foot concrete sidewalks with the necessary ramps. As we've coordinated with the Disabilities Commission, we've done extensively discussion with them to accommodate their request for folks with disabilities. And that's laid out on the first sheet. The second sheet continues the loop around consistently with the 10-foot travel lanes, 8-foot parking on both sides and sidewalks as well. third sheet finishes the loop and completes us, getting us back to West Main Street with the same consistent sidewalks and parking and travel lanes. These are porous pavement travel areas. We've done coordination with the street lighting department per your request. We have a meeting to follow up with them on Monday to tie in our street lighting design and get their comments as well. We've been in coordination and discussions with BTD and as well as Boston Water and Sewer, which we're trying to finalize those pieces in order to complete everything for this project.
Question for you, sir. The parking stalls that you're showing, the parking stalls, are those deeded to the individual properties or are they,
No.
so they are not?
They're not.
deeded?
It's a rental property, so it's just first come, first served.
Amy, do you have any concerns about a future petition by the abutters of this street, if they should petition the commission to turn this private street as a to a public street?
No, I mean, like it
It is
conforms
to
to
the-
our standard street,
Might not be to the maximum extent, but it conforms to,
the minimum.
okay. Because there are some landscape areas within the street layout. Those landscape areas will be, since it's a private street, not our concern. It will be the homeowners that are undertaking.
And would be reconstructed to public works standards.
Standards, if it should
and
be.
paid for in part by the abutters.
It's understood. Yep, it's understood. Thank you.
Where are we with the address assignment from ISD? Have we received those?
No,
We have not. We're waiting to
Waiting to get sort of
finalize.
the last piece.
Street first.
And then we get the
ISD
addresses?
address
Right.
and
Yes.
totally do this.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, at new business, we talked about whether there needs to be a stop sign or a warrant analysis for where Field Sparrow connects with West Main. Has there been subsequent conversation about that?
We haven't followed up with that BTD, but we have the TAPA, which is signed, and we submit. I believe we submitted, but we can resubmit it if it hasn't.
Gentlemen, you
And
just do a quick warrant
and warrant analysis to.
Stop sign.
Okay.
That's all. No big deal.
Other questions or comments on Field Sparrow Way? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this agenda item.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by OG West Campus Land LLC, parcel 2A-3, for the layout approval of a new private way open to public travel, to be known as Field Sparrow Way, as read into the record by the chair, and is shown in a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Layout Approval Plan, Field Sparrow Way, private way open to public travel, West Roxbury, 4 sheets dated February 7th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Our next item is on a petition by 99 Summer Owner LLC for the granting of a projection license for the installation of blade signs over portions of the sidewalks within the following public ways in Boston proper. Summer Street on its southwesterly side at address number 99, located between Bedford Street and Kingston Street, and Bedford Street on its northerly side between Summer Street and Kingston Street. This was new business on March 1st, 2018, and this is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Projection License Plan, 99 Summer Street, Boston, 2 sheets, dated March 1st, 2018. Morning.
Pat Conley from Business Associates, and this is Key Ray from Rocket Management. As you mentioned, we're here for 2 projection licenses. One will be on Summer Street, one will be on Bedford Street. These existing conditions on Summer Street, these clock banners will be removed and replaced with glass blade signs. This is a rendering of what it'll look like in the day and in the night. This sign right here. This is on Summer Street. So this is the Summer Street sign. It's about 4 feet out and 14 feet 10 inches long. It's 16 and a half feet above the sidewalk on the sign. On Bedford Street, this canopy is already removed and the sign is removed. So this is the sign shown there. It's 14 feet above the sidewalk, about 20 inches wide, 8 feet month. It's internally lit, last time, internally drained. So this is Summer Street, and then Bedford Street, the smallest.
Really, this is an annual license,
Right, it's
and they understand the terms of the license agreement.
they pay an annual fee and it's revocable if we.
You needed it.
This is in construction currently, correct?
Not the signs themselves, but they started the,
Other questions or comments on the projection license? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? I'll entertain a motion on the projection license.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by 99 Summer Owner LLC for the granting of projection license at Summer Street and Bedford Street as read into the record by the chair and shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Projection License Plan, 99 Summer Street, Boston, 2 sheets dated March 1, 2018.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on from the public hearing to new business. Again, new business is when items have their first hearing in this room. They are items that we are not taking a vote on today. Our first item is Saratoga Street in East Boston, a specific repair plan on a petition by the Massachusetts Port Authority.
Good morning, my name is Amy Blake Baldwin, I'm a project manager at Massport. What we are looking at is Saratoga Street between Hanover Way and the bridge into the park. In 2015, we installed streetlights along there with approval. This summer, we put in some flowers and the beginnings of an irrigation system, and we're now before you to continue to complete the work by connecting the irrigation system into the street.
Okay, see.
And the irrigation system would be maintained by Massport.
Correct.
Again, the city wants to acknowledge and thank Massport for your continuing maintenance and beautification of that corridor up to the Belle Isle Bridge.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you have adequate community support.
Yes.
Have you discussed this matter with the community? I believe you have, right?
We've started to, I'm working with Mike Bonalaro to put it on their docket.
Thank you.
Yep.
What's the scope of the project? Are you just bringing the irrigation line out into the way, or are you reconstructing
Correct.
the sidewalk, or
Well, the sidewalk will be repaired as necessary after the irrigation is.
just
installed.
related to the trench, though?
Yes.
So you'll be putting together a construction manner plan for approval? Who's gonna be doing that?
We're going to be working with a term contractor.
So before we issue a permit, and you appreciate the project.
Okay.
We need a construction manner plan approved, so we know what we're doing with pedestrians during that time, vehicular traffic, et
Definitely.
cetera.
Yes, we will pull that together.
Other questions or comments on this item? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right, if does 2 weeks work for you guys to come back on the 29th?
Sure.
All right, if you can make some progress on both, sort of a timeline for the CMP and the public engagement, that'd be great.
Great.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next item is 28 Saranac Street in Dorchester, a specific repair plan on a petition by Mr. Mark Lynch. Morning.
I'm Joseph Azella. I'm representing Mark Lynch in this petition. Mr. Lynch simply wants to widen a curb cut to remedy a condition that's existed since he's owned the house for more than 22 years. It's got a double wide driveway, and he'd like to make it accessible by a curb cut.
Essentially, it just exceeds what we provide for a residential application on our curb cut application, so it triggers PSA.
And it is in complete support of your team.
Yep.
So you're going from basically just under 9 feet to just to 21 feet to allow from 1 car to 2 cars.
That's right.
Is that right?
Does this require any ZBA action?
No, it doesn't.
Nope. And the lot line encroachment that's been approved
There is no lot line encroachment.
from the neighbor next door?
No, that's a sliver lot, so that it isn't an encroachment.
So who owns the sliver?
The neighbor.
The neighbor. So again, it's part of their parcel. What are you off from that lot line?
I'm sorry?
What's the distance from the parking to the lot line?
Well, the wall isn't on the lot line itself, so the cars will be within a foot.
Within a foot. And ISD's good with that?
No, they didn't trigger anything.
Okay, this is new business. Have a discussion with ISD
Okay.
on that.
Other questions or comments on this item? All right. Is 2 weeks enough time for you to get a conversation with ISD about encroachment?
Sure.
Great. Okay. We'll see you on the 29th. All right.
Actually,
Thank you so much.
pardon me, Mr.
Please go ahead.
Would you make it the next hearing, please, because I'm not available on the 29th.
Sure. We can go to the 12th of April.
Okay, thank you.
Our next item is Yawkey Way, Boston proper, a street name change on a petition by the Yawkey Way abutters.
Good morning.
Morning. David. What's that? Good morning.
Good morning, David Friedman and Laura Martin on behalf of the Boston Red Sox, the sole beneficiary of petitioner Old Town Team Realty Trust. I'd like to start by thanking the members of the Public Improvements Commission for taking the time to consider our petition to restore Yawkey Way to its original name, Jersey Street. Our petition is an effort to continue to work towards inclusion at Fenway Park. As stewards of this franchise for the past 16 years, our ownership group has striven to ensure the ballpark is welcoming to all fans, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation. We believe the name emblazoned on the front door of the ballpark and the entrance to the front office holds great importance and symbolism. It is our first impression to fans, guests, employees, the city of Boston, and the world. The undeniable and regrettable history of the Red Sox with regards to race and integration during the Yawkey stewardship make it difficult to continue to give prominence to a symbol associated with an era marred by racial discrimination and inequality. We respect the charitable work of the Yawkey Foundation, which has had an enormous positive impact in hospitals, on education programs, and with underserved communities throughout New England. We have the utmost respect for their mission, leadership, and the institutions they support. We appreciate the cooperation of our neighbors on this petition, and we thank the commissioners for your time and your consideration today.
Have all address abutters signed the petition?
Yes.
Any questions or comments? Tammy or Todd? Members of the public?
I'd like to ask a couple questions. Some of the entities within the ballpark have Yawkey on it, such as the scoreboard. What are the Red Sox doing about that?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. Our petition is solely limited to the street and the renaming of the street, and at this time we are focused on that issue.
So you're not taking care of anything in the ballpark?
We are under consideration of a variety of issues, but today we're just focused on the street.
Other questions or comments?
I would hope that for the official vote, that ownership may be in attendance. They're important. They've been very outspoken on this topic. I'd like to see them here if possible. As they're bringing forth this petition, I think it's very important that ownership should be at the table here, giving testimony.
I'd welcome any public comment from folks who'd like to testify on this. Please.
Good morning. My name is Ray Hammond. I'm the pastor of Bethel AME Church in Boston and a trustee of the Yawkey II Foundation. Let me express first my thanks to the Public Improvement Commission for allowing me to offer this testimony, and just say a word of thanks also to my fellow healthcare alumna, Jim Lomborg, who is here, gentleman Jim, who's also here to support our testimony this morning. Yours is the task of protecting the city's public spaces. And when it comes to the matter of street names, that task is usually pretty procedural. If all the abutters on the street ask to change its name, you generally approve the petition. But I want to suggest that the importance of what you're considering today goes far beyond procedure. The petition you are considering today has been publicly framed not merely as a street name change, but as a way of, and I quote, restoring the Jersey street name to reinforce that Fenway Park is inclusive and welcoming to all, and as a means of addressing, and again I quote, the unfortunate and undeniable history of the Red Sox with regards to race and integration. All of this sounds benign enough until one looks at the stories in media outlets across the nation accompanying the announcement of this petition's filing. Almost every story, including the Boston Globe story, allude to two things: the allegation that Tom Yawkey uttered a racial slur at Jackie Robinson, and the fact that the Red Sox were the last team to integrate at the major league level. So let's talk about the facts. The charge that Yawkey uttered a racial slur emerged years after the tryout and was changed at least 3 times by the person who raised it. No credible evidence has ever been offered to support the charge, which is why Globe columnist Will McDonough wrote in 1997, "That never happened." And according to Jean Yawkey, she and Yawkey were not even in Boston on the day of the tryout in April 1945. Their custom was to come back to Boston each year in May. Now, I would add that even the most recent, thoroughly researched book by Bill Nolan finds no credible basis for it. Because the Red Sox were last to integrate, this fiction seems credible to many people and repeatable even to serious journalistic outlets. The fact is, it's a false narrative. Now, it is a fact that the Red Sox were the last team to integrate at the major league level. That is sad, that's painful, and it's a reality that the Red Sox in Boston have to own. The fact is all the more troubling because of Boston's history around sports in general, ask Bill Russell, Boston's history around busing and housing and educational achievement gaps and economic development and economic inequality and political power for people of color. It's easy in the light of past and present realities to assume that Boston was last because Boston wanted to be last. It's easy to assume that the Red Sox were reluctant foot draggers who, as some have said, did everything to keep their team white as possible for as long as possible. The problem is that those assumptions dissolve in the face of the facts. The facts, gleaned from the Red Sox archives and media reports, including the Boston Globe, are simple. The team signed its first black ball player, Lorenzo Piper Davis, to a minor league contract in 1949. In 1950, 1952, and 1954, the Red Sox made strong, substantial offers to other teams to acquire such star black players as Larry Doby, Charlie Neal, and Bill Greason, but they were rebuffed. In 1957, the team was about to promote a black pitching prospect, Earl Wilson, to the major league team, which would have placed them before several other teams, only to see him drafted by the Marines. The team remained committed to Wilson, who rejoined the Red Sox in 1959, a week after Pumpsie Green officially integrated the team. The very regrettable fact is that the Red Sox ended up being last. The fiction is that they were last because Tom Yawkey was a racist whose name must be expunged forever from Yawkey Way at Fenway Park. It's on the basis of that fiction that this petition has been filed. And it's for that reason that I respectfully submit that your job is much different in this case than it would be in a routine matter. Granting this petition would perpetuate a false narrative and unfairly tarnish the legacy of a man whose giving in life and death has benefited hundreds of thousands in the greater Boston area. Granting this petition would tarnish the Yawkey name not only at Fenway Park, but throughout Boston. There are 18 institutions in the city whose buildings, facilities, and programs carry Tom Yawkey's name in gratitude for the support they've received from the Yawkey Foundation. It's my pleasure to submit to you a letter signed by many of these institutions and individual letters from other institutions. Many of them support underserved communities, and they are united in opposing this petition. More letters are on their way. And while the Red Sox have praised the work of the foundation and said they should be considered separately from Yawkey Way, the Yawkey name at Fenway Park is the same Yawkey name that's on the foundation. They are inseparable. The Public Improvements Commission is not a rubber stamp, but it has the power under its rules to examine, quote, legitimate concerns raised by a proposed name change. I urge you to consider the legitimate concern about the consequences of the name change for institutions that carry the Yawkey name. I urge you to consider the legitimate concern that this name change might affect historic preservation. Yawkey Way is a city-owned street, but is arguably now as much a part of Fenway Park as the Green Monster and Pesky's Pole. Yawkey Way is leased to the Red Sox throughout the year and is in effect an extension of the ballpark's concourse. Given the ballpark's historic designation, Yawkey Way itself has historical significance that the PIC should consider in its review of the petition. Finally, as your website states, you make sure everything is within city standards. I humbly urge this commission to help Boston move out of the cycle of recrimination and relitigating of our past on the basis of rumor and innuendo, and to move into a cycle of seriously addressing the many substantive issues that face us in making Boston a place of opportunity and equity for people of every race and class and country of origin. I urge this commission to set a standard of considering Tom Yawkey's entire life, hearing the full story of the team's effort to acquire and promote black players in the 1950s, and to weigh all the facts and the historic nature of the street that has borne his name for 42 years. If the commission exercises its authority to examine legitimate concerns, and if the commission sets a positive and forward-looking standard for the city of Boston, we're confident that you will reject this petition. Thank you.
Good morning. I am happy to have this opportunity to speak to the commission. My name is Walter Carrington. I am a former commissioner of the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination, and I may be one of the very few living persons who can testify to what happened during the time of the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination's investigation of the charges of discrimination against the Red Sox and against Tom Yawkey. I was the commissioner in charge of the investigation against the Red Sox in 1959. And one of the advantages, I guess, of living to an old age is that I am able to be here as a personal witness to what happened. During that investigation, the first thing I had to do was to decide whether, in fact, there was probable cause to uphold the allegations being made by the Boston chapter of the NAACP, the American Veterans Commission, and others as to the treatment of Pumpsie Green during the spring training of that year, and the practices at Fenway Park by the Red Sox in terms of the hiring of black staff. I made a thorough investigation, which included going down to New York to talk to Jackie Robinson himself about the tryout that took place here in 1945, which he described to me as an absolute sham, that the Red Sox did it only because a member of the Boston City Council, Isidore Muchnick, had told the Red Sox that unless they held a hearing to allow, not a hearing, but unless they gave a tryout to black players, that he was going to see that their license to have baseball games on Sunday was revoked. They then had what they called a tryout where Jackie Robinson, Sam Jethro, and Marvin Williams appeared. And the Red Sox, after that so-called tryout, said they would get in touch with Robinson and the others. They never did. This was in 1945, 2 years before Robinson signed with the Brooklyn Dodgers. The Red Sox had the first try on him, as they also later had the first they had the first chance to sign Willie Mays, and they turned that down. Now, I don't know what is in the Red Sox archives, but it seems to me their whole litany of trying to hire black ball players, from my investigation, is in fact false. After I did the investigation and made a finding of probable cause, we then held a public hearing on the matter. Officials of the Red Sox attended that hearing. After that, we sat down with the Red Sox, and after negotiations with them, they agreed to change their practices. One, they agreed that they would see to it that in the future that any player that they had on their team was not segregated in the tryouts in the South as Pumpsie Green had been. In fact, Pumpsie Green was not even allowed to travel with the team. He had to travel with the Chicago Cubs because they were the only team. They were a team that was having the same kind of schedule as they did, but they had a black player, and so he could go along with them. We looked also at the question of hiring practices at Fenway Park. And at that time, in April and May of 1959, the Boston Red Sox had not hired a single black person in even the most menial positions at Fenway Park. We, at the end of the hearings and negotiations with the Red Sox, they agreed that they would see to it that there was not segregation during the tryout period, and that they would instruct their scouts that they had an obligation to look at all prospects, regardless of race, and not do what they did to Willie Mays, where the scouts, thinking that they were following the instructions from on high, turned down the opportunity to scout Willie Mays. And they agreed also that they would give equal opportunity to all applicants for jobs in Fenway Park. Now, it seems to me they would not have signed those agreements if, in fact, they had not been discriminating. After that happened, the Red Sox were very unhappy with the results. And in fact, I was then up for reappointment, and I was called in to meet the then chairman of the Governor's Council, someone whose name some of you may remember, Sonny McDonough, who reamed me out and told me that Mr. Yockey and others were unhappy that he was going to see that I was not reappointed, and that he thought and others thought that I was trying to run the Red Sox out of town by what I did in the hearings. It was clear from those hearings that the Red Sox policies were the policies of Tom Yockey himself, and that Joe Cronin and Pinky Higgins, who was the manager, and Pinky Higgins, in fact, in a public press conference said that as long as he was manager of the Red Sox, that they would never hire, and he used the N-word, they would hire none of those on the Red Sox team. So that it seems to me and to many others that the Red Sox and Tom Yockey at that time were indistinguishable, and many blacks in this community, I among them, it was not the curse of the Bambino that kept the Red Sox from winning all those, from winning pennants. It was the curse of Tom Yockey, and I, like many others, stayed away from Fenway Park for many years. And now, when I go to Fenway Park, I have the same kind of feeling I had when I was working for the federal government and going on streets in Virginia named for Robert E. Lee and other people. I have that same feeling when I approach Yockey Way. And so I hope that this commission will, in fact, approve the petition of this new ownership of the Red Sox, which I think is doing a very good job in their attempts to erase the memory of Yockey, and to say that what the Yockey Foundation has done somehow absolves Tom Yockey of his sins is like saying what the Ford Foundation does is absorbing Henry Ford, who was known as a rampant anti-Semite in his time. His actions are not changed by the good work of the Ford Foundation. Neither, I would submit to you, is the racism of Tom Yockey changed by the good works that the Yockey Foundation may be doing. Thank you very much.
Other members who would like to testify?
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Rebecca Lee. As you know, I'm here on other matters, but it is rare that I come before the Public Improvement Commission and hear an extraordinary history lesson, and that is what I have just heard. I'm here as a longtime resident of Chinatown and a resident of the city of Boston, and I urge you to remove the blight of Tom Yockey's name from Yockey Way. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Tower-Lowen, and I'm here, I'm just going to read what I have written. I'm writing you concerning the recent decision by the Boston Red Sox to rename Yockey Way. It is evident change is needed in order to create a welcoming atmosphere at Fenway Park. After carefully reviewing the history of the Boston Red Sox, we respectfully request Herbert Tucker is given serious consideration in the renaming process. Herbert Tucker was an agent of change in Boston from the mid-1940s until he became the presiding judge of Edgartown District Court in 1979. It was through his efforts, fairness and equality were attained as he fought for the less fortunate and underrepresented. His efforts include a probe he launched detailing a pattern of racial inequities involving the Boston Red Sox. The Honorable Herbert Tucker, Jr. was born in Boston, August 30th, 1915. He attended Boston Latin and upon graduation attended Northeastern University. He would later earn a law degree from the Northeastern University Law in 1943. Tucker worked as a revenue agent for the IRS. He eventually passed the Massachusetts bar in 1947, but remained in the IRS until establishing the law firm Kodasi & Tucker in 1952. The firm was believed to be the first black-owned law firm in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In 1960, Tucker was named Assistant Attorney General of the state of Massachusetts. In the same year, he was appointed by Senator John F. Kennedy to the Civil Rights section of his presidential campaign. At this point in his career, he accomplished a great deal at the age of 45. The events of 1959 served as a springboard to a rather busy and prosperous 1960. In 1959, Tucker served as the president of the Boston branch of the NAACP. During this time, the Red Sox were the only team without an African American on their major league roster. As president of the NAACP, Tucker was troubled by a systematic pattern of racial bias involving the Boston Red Sox. In prior years, eventual Hall of Famers Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays were denied the opportunity to play for the club, 1940s and the early 50s. After a promising spring training in 1959, the team opted to move Elijah Pumpsie Green to the minors. The team argued that Green required more seasoning before joining the major league roster. Tucker disagreed and took the team to task over the decision, plus other questionable decisions regarding Negro players made in the past. At the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination hearing in 1959, Tucker argued the Red Sox indeed had an anti-Negro policy going back 12 years. In response to the NAACP's claim, General Manager Bucky Harris sent a letter to the MCAD denying the existence of any anti-Negro policy. Despite the denials and a long history of deceptive practices, the NAACP, under Tucker's leadership, exerted enough pressure to produce results. On July 21st, 1959, Pumpsie Green became the first African American to play for the Boston Red Sox when he entered the game in the 8th inning against the Chicago Cubs. If the Boston Red Sox truly want to create a welcoming atmosphere, we believe that renaming Yawkey Way to Jersey Way squanders an opportunity to sincerely reconcile past inequities. Herbert Tucker brought fairness to the Boston Red Sox. Ownership at the time did not change deceptive practices internally. It was willed by an external force, Herbert Tucker. He was a man who knew the meaning of perseverance, as his journey took him from hauling bags as a red cap at South Station in the 1930s to presiding over the Dorchester court system in 1974. Tucker was an inspirational Bostonian who inspired men like Wayne Budd to reach for the stars. Budd was Massachusetts' first African-American Attorney General, and he was a mentee of the late Herbert Tucker. I could go on, but that's where I would like to leave it, and I thank you for your time, and I hope the process will consider this suggestion and proposal. Thank you.
Other testimony?
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, for the record, my name is Ron Iacobucci. I reside at 430 Adams Street. I've listened very carefully to some of the previous testimony, and from my observation, this matter before you has done nothing but divide the city and divide the fans. I'm going to try to suggest something maybe a little different for you to consider, and that is recently Adrian Walker, in writing for the Boston Globe, suggested that the mayor has only one option, and that option is to support this petition. I respectfully disagree with that. I think there's another option. And it's an option with your leadership and the mayor's leadership to bring the parties together, the Boston Red Sox and the Yawkey Foundation, to do something that is going to make a difference for Black and Latino kids in Boston. And that something is to build a Major League Baseball Urban Youth Academy. The academy provides an opportunity to Black and Latino kids to not only have a career path with workforce development, but to also promote education and keep them in school. It could truly make a difference in these kids' lives. There's a team that's ready and willing to work with the Red Sox to pursue this with their blessing, and I would hope Yawkey's funding. This is something that could really happen. And this is something that could definitely make a difference in people's lives. Because at the end, when you have this petition that's before you, and you change the name of a street, all the kids get is Jersey Street, when really the kids deserve something more. And who knows, maybe even with the talent that's out there, we don't have to reach to the Dominican Republic to find someone that could potentially be a Red Sox player. There's talent right here. And, you know, you could say that Tom Yawkey was a racist because he was the last owner to integrate. But what does it make John Henry if he could potentially be the last team in Major League Baseball to build a Major League Baseball Urban Youth Academy? I think it's important to table this, to give the mayor and the leadership here an opportunity to bring people together and do something that's positive by doing this project. That makes a tremendous difference than what we're talking about here today. Thank you.
Other members of the public?
My name is Jim Lonborg. I used to play for the 1967 Red Sox. I played for 7 years with the Yawkey organization from 1965 till 1971. I played 1 year in the minor leagues in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I loved Tom Yawkey as a human being. I have read comments and books and statements within the last few months about this gentleman. One of the things that I would like to offer to you and to anyone who is listening is that people change. I think there was a historical perspective early in the history of the Red Sox, a historical perspective that was pervasive throughout our whole country. Tom Yawkey would come into our clubhouse, would sit down to individual players if they had maybe a particularly bad game the night before, and would personally talk to them. My locker mate was a gentleman by the name of Earl Wilson. He was my mentor. Earl Wilson was a black man, and yet I saw Mr. Yawkey come down even after an Earl Wilson would have a bad game, and put his arms around him and console him and encourage him to just keep trying hard. This is not an easy thing for me to say. It's causing quite a bit of disruption in evening conversations with my wife and I. She does not want me up here speaking, but I feel so strongly about the presence of this man. I understand that a lot went on early in the history. I understand that there were people of persuasion that had an influence on Mr. Yawkey's life. But I personally saw a change in Mr. Yawkey from the 1966 season, 67 season, 68 season, when our team now became integrated with wonderful players like Elston Howard, who he traded for, Jose Tartabull, Reggie Smith, Joe Foy, George Scott, all teammates of mine. And I know that he was a kind man to those gentlemen as he was to anybody who was in that clubhouse and played for the Boston Red Sox. I would like to see his legacy go forward from the time when I think he became a better man, and we were all better people because he was in our clubhouse for the years that I knew him. I would like you to consider to keep that name for all the good things that he did later on in his life. Thank you.
Other members of the public? There is opportunity to submit additional both commentary as well as questions to the Public Improvement Commission meeting, Public Improvement Commission. You can email the Public Improvement Commission at pic@boston.gov or send written comments to the Public Improvement Commission at Boston City Hall, Boston, Mass. 02110, or through the city's website. Encourage you to do any of those that you may want to take advantage of. Are there other questions or comments by the Commission? Amy or Todd? All right. Other members of the public? Okay. Our next Public Improvement Commission hearing is on the 29th, in 2 weeks. Does that work for you guys?
Yes.
All right. Other folks who want to be able to provide testimony can also provide testimony again on the 29th in this room. The meeting starts at 10 a.m. See you on the 29th. Thank you. Our next item of new business is 99 Blackstone Street, North Street, Hanover Street, and the John F. Fitzgerald Surface Road in Boston proper. Specific repairs, projection license, earth retention license on a set of joint petitions by Haymarket Parcel 9 Investor LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Rebecca, if you want to, sorry.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Rebecca Lee. I'm an attorney with Mintz Levin. We represent Haymarket Parcel 9 Investor LLC, an entity that has been established and designated by MassDOT to redevelop Central Artery Parcel 9, which is a vacant parcel right next to Blackstone Street in the Government Center Market District of Boston, into an approximately 145,000 square foot, 225 key hotel. To my left is Dick Galvin, the principal of CV Properties, and Deb Danek from Niche Engineering, the civil engineers for this project. This project has received BPDA approval. It is currently the subject of a notice of project change because of a minor increase of height in the building. And it is a project that we're coming before you with 3 petitions. The first is for canopies around the building. The second is for an earth retention system. And the third is for specific repairs on all four sides of the building. We also have with us MassDOT representative Mark Boyle. MassDOT is our co-proponent on this project. And I will let Dick speak a little bit about the project generally, and then we can proceed with discussing the petitions in whichever order you would like.
Thank you, Rebecca. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you so much for allowing us to come forward with this project. As Rebecca said, we are preparing to undertake this development of approximately 220-key hotel with ground floor retail. It's been in the works for a number of years, I think, as Mark would attest, and we're poised to start construction on this. And as it relates to what we're before you, it really is almost two different components. Obviously, the construction of the hotel, as you can, or Deb had that up there, the rendering you can see behind me. It's a 6-story. It'll be a wonderful addition to the city on basically a vacant lot that's been vacant ever since the central artery was completed. But equally important to us, and I think to the city, is the reconstruction of Blackstone Street, which will take a centuries-old street, make significant improvements, and make a much better environment for the Haymarket pushcart vendors in their operations, which will still go on as it has for decades. So what we're here today is to discuss some of the details around that Deb will present. But from our perspective, we view the Blackstone Street improvements as equally important project as the hotel itself. Our goal is to start those improvements early this summer so we can undertake the hotel in full-scale development sometime in the fall. So Deb, why don't you?
Yeah, thank you. So maybe I'll just do the presentation in the order that Rebecca mentioned, starting with the canopy license. So as Dick mentioned, we have the proposed building on the triangular portion of the lot. Within that, we're proposing canopy building overhangs over the property line on Hanover Street to the west, the Service Road to the north, and North Street to the east. All of the canopies will be removable. They're heated, heat traced, self-draining, and they also, the furthest one extends out about 60% of the sidewalk width, which is actually at the back of the bump in at the curb. When we look to below grade, we're also requesting a license for temporary air support.
Clearance of the canopy.
Excuse me, thank you. There's a minimum of 10-foot clearance under all of the canopy locations. When we look to below grade, we're requesting a license for temporary air support. That will only be required for us on North Street. The proposed building has a very small footprint of a basement because the tunnel, MassDOT tunnel actually runs under the property. So we have a small basement portion at the southeast corner of the building, and the building is actually set back 8 feet from the property line along Blackstone Street. So the only location that we're gonna be requesting temporary air support is North Street. So it would be soldier pile and logging. Once we're done using it, it'll be cut down 7 feet below grade out of the way.
You have approval from Mass DOT for that design?
We do have Mass DOT here. We're still working through our approvals with their office.
So I know
We have to
through
get a
the last time with the property at Broad and Surface Road, there was some glitches with the approval, notifications, et cetera. So District 6 is reviewing this? Mass DOT?
Yes, District 6 has reviewed this and has approved it.
They have approved it?
They have.
They're also a co-petitioner on all these actions.
Yeah, but I know that they were co-petitioner the last time, and then I ended up going to about 20 different meetings, so just want to make sure.
Thank you.
So when we get to our specific repairs or requests, the majority of them are what Dick and Rebecca have mentioned with the Blackstone Street. The existing street is now used Fridays and Saturdays for the Haymarket Pushcart Association for their operations. So MassDOT, our team, have been working closely with the Haymarket Pushcart Association to kind of understand what their needs are on this road and hopefully enhance it for them as well as the pedestrians that go to Haymarket and use the street otherwise. So our proposal south side of Blackstone Street is actually part of the historic Blackstone Street block, so we're working with the Landmarks Commission to discuss, trying to maintain what we can through there. There are some granite pavers to be maintained. There's also some granite pavers that are currently covered with asphalt, so we're gonna move the asphalt and hopefully reuse what we can through there.
Let me just interject for a second. I just want to clarify. We've been before the Landmark District, before this Boston Landmarks Commission. They have approved the sidewalk repair work. The only open issue is that there is a section of the granite pavers, which Deb just alluded to, which has asphalt on it. So what we have agreed is that when the specialty contractor is in taking the asphalt off, we will have the Landmark Commission and the BPDA in for a site visit within 48 hours so that everybody can also confirm what is going to be done. They are very thick. There are areaways below them. There are structural issues. So we want to make sure that city officials are all on the same page. But other than that, the Landmark District Commission, the Landmark Commission, has signed off on the Blackstone Street work, and their jurisdiction is only on the south side of the street.
So that brings up one of the important points that I was wondering about was the areaway work, the structural deficiencies. Who's taking care of that?
Because on that side, Deborah, there are many challenges, and for decades we have been waiting for this point in time. So, sir, thank you. Time is here, but we just want to make sure, I should say we, I think it is our collective responsibility to ensure that this thing gets done once, because otherwise it can be extremely disruptive. So, Ms. Denick, how would you like to address those challenges? Not want to burden you with drama, but there's a situation that needs to be managed.
Yeah, no, we understand there's definitely some structural deficiencies, some repair work, let's call it, that has a scope that's still to be defined as we get in there and work through it. So we've spent a lot of time looking at that. There's these underground kind of catches, et cetera. So we're well aware of what we're stepping into relative to making those repairs.
Thank you. As long as there's commitment from your team to do what is reasonable.
Yeah, that's a fair.
Yes, because we can't saddle you with unnecessary drama of private entities. That would be awkward. But something needs to be done.
Yeah, and again, getting back to because the asphalt is a perfect example of, we're going to go in there and chip it away as best we can, try not to damage anything. Get people out there right away to look at it and say, all right, what's the best way to end up leaving this?
And if I may use that thought pattern, asphalt was put, I think, to manage an ADA concern, because so no one couldn't go there. So something smoother is better than something crumbling. So from that perspective, I noticed in your drawings that the brick pavers that are there, I don't know whether there is any historical significance to those pavers. If they are there, because to work with the Disabilities Commission to ensure that there's a concrete path of travel, because today we changed from the City Hall pavers to the Y-cut pavers towards the late end of the Central Artery project. But even those Y-cut pavers, there's no one to maintain. So we have an ongoing drama. So your plans, Deborah, show Y-cut pavers. Who is going to maintain those? So if it is going to be a challenge to you, sir, may I also suggest that we look at other options of turning things back into concrete if that doesn't go in conflict with any historic preservation. Because it is the bluestone, that is all I think that is from a preservation historic.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we're trying to thread the needle, right, between historic preservation.
Yes.
A maintained city street that ultimately be a city street and get to the right solution. So we're certainly open to that conversation.
So let's try and use this opportunity to get it right without overly burdening you and the process being overly cumbersome.
We have been asked actually to defer action on this specific repair petition because of ongoing conversations with the Boston Water and Sewer Commission about replacement of an 1853 and 1890 water lines in Blackstone Street. And so we're working with them on that. So we're actually going to ask to postpone this particular petition. So that would also give us time to discuss this. We also want to be sensitive to the fact that those brick pavers are next door to the Millennium Hotel. And so they may well be the subject of a separate LMI with them.
Yeah, you
So we will
just
look
bring it
into that
home.
and discuss it further also with the Commission on Disabilities. We'd also have to discuss it with the Landmark District Commission, who approved the replacement of the existing brick pavers with the wire cut.
And the Pushcart Association, they themselves have been patiently working with us for 20 years plus. Their role in this,
Yes.
or do they have a role? Do they have a voice?
We've met with them, presented our ideas. I think the whole goal here is to help better organize, and make it easier for them to set up, to take down. Part of the project is we have approximately 1,600 square feet within our building. That'll be their storage area as well as restrooms. So we're working on a variety of ideas to help improve their whole operation. And obviously, as Deb said, just flattening out the road will make it a much more amenable experience for both the vendors and customers coming through.
The proposed bollards will have electric service. The project is also providing water service to them, so that's part of the public benefits to be derived from the project.
Trash removal. Some years back, the city invested, the Public Works Department invested in creating those bays. And your thoughts on?
There are trash removal. There is a trash bay in the building exclusively for Kmart Pushcart
Pretty
Association.
carefully laid out obligations. Yeah.
We appreciate that being incorporated.
Well, again, that's why I say they're almost integral to each other, their success, right? In terms of not only physical layouts, but operational as well.
So punchline, Deborah, you're raising the street, so it is flat, more like part of the connected story, one of those streets.
Union Street.
Union Street. So,
Yep,
So
with
one
that,
other thing though, when we were talking about delaying the specific repairs, isn't it in fact true that this is the initial first phase, is to reconstruct that street?
You mean in terms of the staging of the work, or? Yes.
So this has to happen first before we actually start the building.
Yeah, so there's a logistics challenge, obviously, because the vendors, we want them to operate continuously. So we've been working with MassDOT on a staging strategy that will allow us to get the street work done. The vendors can work on the MassDOT parcel itself during that time frame, so they can have continuous operations. We get the work done as quick as we can, and we flip it over.
That's why it's important that we need to get this resolved.
Yes, but we need to get it resolved, but we're also committed to getting it resolved right. And so I think we're aligned in that regard.
So the CMP that you will see by tomorrow has a temporary layout plan for the Haymarket vendors, which has been vetted with them.
It's coming.
I can't wait.
Giving consideration to all the prior years of interaction between the Haymarket, the Pushcart Association, is there, give us guidance as to whether they should submit anything in writing in terms of supporting this plan?
I mean, they can present whatever documentation they already have
Yes,
with that.
something.
And we'll add it to the record.
Because every once in a while,
Or we can have this
conversations seem to be fragmented.
We can have one of them come to the meeting too. So.
That would be really.
So just to clarify, we are seeking to have the specific repair matter heard at the April 26th hearing, but we are prepared to go forward with earth retention and with the canopy license at your next hearing with the assent of the Boston Water and Sewer Commission.
Earth retention system is dependent upon the CMP review.
Correct.
So if it's coming tomorrow, that's great. So
Yes.
we can definitely get into
We
that.
have a commitment from HSH on that.
Guy, you commit on that?
I will commit Robbie to that.
All right. Get it, man.
So I'll take this opportunity with our co-petitioner in the room to talk water mains for a little bit. We are working on a potential solution for the water mains under Blackstone Street so that this project can move forward in a timely manner. We have an opportunity because Boston Water and Sewer is across the street installing water mains from Hanover, across Salem, to Endicott Street in Cross Street. We generally take our water main improvements and our capital plans in a very measured and calculated approach that is several years in advance. The project across the street is in great collaboration with across multiple agencies. We've had several meetings on this now. And I just want to bring to light that there may be an opportunity here to upgrade the street, and Boston Water and Sewer is going to be extremely flexible because we want to be good partners and we want to make sure that the city is as vibrant and the streets are protected, upholding what PIC does to ensure the longevity of these streets. So I just want to point out to the co-petitioner, to the project team, to all the other projects that we need to work together to get the water mains done by July 4th on the other side of the street so that we can move forward with the North Washington Street Bridge project and then focus on this project as a complete team. And we have to move fast. And we'll leave it at that.
So I'd just like to make a quick comment to the commission. This issue came to light really just in the last 10 days, a week, to everybody. It's a real issue, and I want to compliment Water and Sewer, their whole team, everybody. There's a spirit of cooperation going on that recognizes this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fix this street and this water line. We're certainly committed to work in a quick manner and get it done, but I just want to compliment the agencies involved. It's rare you see it happen so quickly. People get on the phone quickly, and it's certainly worth stating publicly that it's been impressive from the private side so far.
Thank you. I will also second that as the person making a lot of the calls. I appreciate Boston Water and Sewer being readily available as well as the persons with disabilities. We've met with them a couple times too on this kind of particular project. So kind of back to Blackstone Street. So we talk big picture. We're going to raise the road to at grade with the sidewalks. On both sides of the road, we're going to install some bollards. The south side bollards will have electrical conduit in them and plugs for the vendors. If you've been out there on the weekend, it's a crazy mess of plugs right now. So we're hoping this will help them. As well as with raising the road, working through the water line installation, we'll also be proposing new drainage in the street because we'll be relocating basically the gutter below to make the road. When we look at the north sidewalk close to the building, it'll be standard granite curb, cement concrete walk. There are some existing City of Boston streetlights which the city has already taken over ownership of that we'll be relocating. We'll be adding a new one as well. The other fun thing about this area, if you've ever gone through there, if you look down at the ground, there's actually an art installation. There's brass pieces of different trash stuff. It's called a Seroton. So we've been working very closely with the artists who did those originally in order to take those and basically relocate them to a better spot that works better for accessibility and people walking through the area. So we've located an area here on the west side of Blackstone Street near Hanover, basically the same type of square footage they have for their pieces now, but so that we can keep them out of the pedestrian path of travel. That will also include a new Freedom Trail, the normal plastic strip, which we know that the Disabilities Commission prefers.
The relocation of the Max Harris piece, she's comfortable with that?
Yes, we're working very closely with them. They're still determining the specific pieces of the building.
It'll actually probably be newly cast.
Yes. I don't remember, did the Brown Fund participate? There's a city agency called the Brown Fund, a city funding source. If they participated in funding that, you need to make sure that they are also brought into the equation. Okay?
Look that up. Thank you.
Thank you. That's
Please. Sir, this is for you. Union Street is being raised. You are raising this street from the, and there's an amazing network of internal alleyways. We have spoken to some of the business owners over there. They are very eager to change the livability, nighttime presence within this area. You're going to have a flat raised street. Can you imagine the sort of daytime or evening activities outside the pushcart? Basically, think about what type of additional lighting that might facilitate more of a business nighttime activity within that area. We are thinking about overhead lights that crisscross between buildings within public ways to create a more Renaissance city. Go to any parts of Italy, France, go across the pond. You know what I'm.
Yeah, no, it sounds like ourselves.
No, because these thought patterns are being seriously entertained on Union Street. with the internal streets, and now we have an opportunity over here to bring that whole zone, have a different type of a character.
Clearly, our retail will wrap around to Blackstone Street from Hanover as well as from north. The only place we can put our services is in that middle section. But we'll clearly be activating all the other days of the week, those corners, in terms of lighting, and obviously the canopy structures that we talked about.
Because that surface street can be closed or can have a more of a evening open.
Absolutely.
The tactical plazas. Okay.
Yeah, there's all kinds of wonderful opportunities
Yes,
relative
and
to
we-
programming that street.
Exactly, and being in the private sectors, because you have the buildings, European cities, you have the fixtures coming off the buildings, the wires, and we need your thinking along those lines, because I have no business asking you to put the hooks on your buildings.
We operate the D Street hotels over across from the lawn on D. Very
Okay,
familiar
so
with what.
I'm wasting.
Yeah, and what that means, quite frankly, for driving customer experience into the hotels, for the retailers, we know there's synergies there that need to be explored.
There you go, sir. Can make something amazing.
And again, as it goes with that, the programming, curbside management, et cetera, with the loading for the businesses, obviously the TAPA is in process.
Yes.
There's a few outstanding issues, as you know, relative to tour bus parking, loading, et cetera. So we need to get that wrapped up.
No, it's a challenging location in terms of all the moving parts relative to.
And potentially with the project across the street, we need to see what we're doing here.
So to recap a little bit, as we work our way up Hanover Street, we're seeing the art out of the main walking path of travel. The Hanover Street sidewalk will be cement concrete with granite curb. The Freedom Trail travels up that and basically takes a left and crosses Hanover Street. Working our way across Surface Road, as Mr. Hesford suggested, we're proposing some curb changes through there in order to provide more street trees, kind of a more buffered feel for the pedestrians on the sidewalk. Within the street trees, we'll have irrigation under drains, but we're also designing this planter as we can for a bioswale. There'll be curb breaks in the raised curb along it so that stormwater can flow in and help feed the trees. Along Surface Road, we're also proposing to relocate the lights to work with the bump outs of the curb. As we work our way around to North Street, we get into the same idea of cement concrete walk, path of travel, and trees at the curb. With the existing North Street is extremely generously wide, so we're proposing to put in a bank of kind of street trees with bioswale curved with the curb brace in it. You have a minimum of a little, right around 9 feet wide, 8.7 foot wide cement concrete walk, and then we're proposing another public amenity, basically what we're calling platforms. It would mimic a lot what you see on the Greenway. There's about a 4-foot grade change when you go from Surface Road to Blackstone Street. So we're proposing that towards the building there'd be a series of seawalls and some stairs such that people would come in at grade, they could hang out here, sit on the seawalls, go back, come in at the lower one at grade, and then if people want to walk all the way through, there are stairs with cameras.
That will need to be a discontinuance, not a specific repair.
That would be, okay, so we'll let you know within the next 6 weeks.
Sorry, but if they do that, can the city program any activities if the real estate belongs to
No.
the nice people?
But again,
That they would be the ones who actually program.
if you're proposing any change to the cross-section width, just keep in mind, there's an emergency snow arterial that's heavily used because we have a regional transportation connection from the off-ramp from I-93. So that's gonna be really scrutinized, and we're looking at basically putting neck downs in or narrowing the street, et cetera, to move that traffic.
We have not proposed, the furthest extent of the curve is the same on Hanover and Surface Road and North
The
Street.
neck
and
down?
Hanover. That neck down exists today, so we're proposing, basically the neck down starts, it's the whole length of the block.
Yep.
So we're proposing to minimize that.
Oh, you are in,
For the parking
cutting,
area.
cutting
Yeah, so
into
we're
the basic
reducing
thing.
parking area, the lane widths of the actual drivable pavement of the road stay the same.
And again, the tour bus issue is a major part of this discussion.
It is.
That is a vital portion of the tourist industry in the city of Boston that needs to be addressed.
Okay, yep.
Specific repair plan? You all have it?
No,
Todd? Members of the public? All right, so on the 29th, we'll be looking at the production license and the earth retention license with a focus on getting the CMP ready for the 29th. And then on the 26th of April, the specific repair plan, in coordination with water and sewer, and the conversations around brick versus concrete, and lighting changes, et cetera. And then, just because it does, the tour bus issue on Circus Road is obviously a significant one. We just work those conversations with PTD. That'd be great. Yep. See you in 2 weeks, then 6 weeks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next item is 660 Summer Street, South Boston, a specific repair plan on a petition by Parcel A Development Leasee, LLC. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Steve Materano. I'm with Bowler Engineering, here today with Alex Taranto with Intercontinental Real Estate. They're the project owners and current leaseholders of Parcel A in the EDIC section of South Boston. And then also with us is Christian Lemon from Lemon Brook Landscape Architects. So they did the design of the sidewalk improvements. We're here to present the sidewalk improvements along Summer Street. So the Parcel A site, which is shown on the drawing there, is fronted by Summer Street on one side and Dry Dock Avenue. Summer Street is a public way. Dry Dock Avenue is a private way owned by the EDIC. So the petition is only subject to the Summer Street improvements.
Wouldn't the BPDA be a co-petitioner on this, as they own the parcel?
Well, all of the actions that they're taking are just within the public right-of-way. They're not changing.
Land is owned by the BRA, correct?
The land is owned by the BRA. Intercontinental is the current leaseholder on that parcel.
And maintaining the work that they're
They need to
proposing.
be on.
Fee ownership AV is BBDA. They just have a 99. How many year lease do you have? A 99-year lease?
I believe it's 90 year.
Okay, I was wrong by 9 years. Okay, so the point is because if we check with the BBDA.
Yeah, no,
needs to-
typically we don't have the BPDA co-petition on the 99-year lease parcel. But if you want something from the BPDA, we can.
I think they're the owner.
They are the owner, and these folks are
Yep.
just from a
No problem.
91st year. We don't want to have an issue.
Okay, so the project itself, just to give you some background as to what we're doing over there, is a dual hotel. It's a Homewood Suites and Hampton Inn, and then there's some ground floor retail and restaurant space as well. The hotel is 415 rooms between the two hotels. Just to give you an idea of it, it's
310,000 square feet.
310,000 square feet. The improvements, and I'll get up to the board in a second, are really sidewalk improvements. We're not changing curb lines. We're just reconstructing the existing sidewalk and then developing it more in line with the Complete Streets guidelines. So we're putting in a pervious paver strip. We're moving the street trees, which are currently at the back edge of the sidewalk. We're going to take those street trees down and put street trees along the furnishing and greenscape zone. And then we're adding some bike racks as well in that same area. And then there's some comments that we've received through this process from the Disabilities Commission and the BPDA as well about some alignments on crosswalks and adding detectable warnings and rebuilding reciprocal ramps. Those are in our plans now and will be in the plans in final form. So we believe we've addressed those comments to date. And I'll just step up to the board quickly and we can run through some of the specifics just so everybody's clear where we're talking about. So, project in general, this is Dry Dock Avenue going into the EDIC. This is Summer Street at the bottom of the page. The improvements specifically
Just in the intersection right here, basically where you have the traffic signal equipment,
Yes.
you check the grades, basically where the proposed ramps, they don't infringe upon the signal equipment?
They do not.
You verified that?
Yeah, yes, because the signal equipment is actually set back from where the ramps are today. On Dry Dock Avenue, and we are reconstructing this whole stretch, so they have the ability to adjust the grades as needed, but they're not right on top of the ramp, so we can work with the existing signal.
I believe we have an interconnect system that runs down that sidewalk area. Have you identified that? So we have our interconnect cable conduit fiber. Just make sure it's identified. We know.
Yep.
It's a main feed. Yep.
We did get the records and have those shown on the utility plans. Just, we'll add a note to the plans, just to be clear, make sure the contractors aware of that when they're doing the work.
Thank you.
Your front row. I'm coming to your nice hotel, getting off at the airport, taking an Uber or taxi. Where will my taxi drop me off? Where's your front door here? Is it off the dry dock? So you're from the inside.
Right, so
Completely.
you can come in through Dry Dock Avenue.
So it's no friction off either on Summer Street, nothing?
No, at the
No
end
doors
of,
open?
at the end of the project, the hotel address will end up as 15 Terminal Street.
Yes, that's
So-
your, but legally where is your front door going to be? Where will the Uber or the Lyft or the taxi drop me off?
In the drop-off circle.
Okay.
Yes.
Definitely not on Summer Street.
You do have
No.
You do have
There's no way to get there. You have to go down, yes.
Okay, so it all depends on how your building is structured. Okay, your doors. So there are
Right.
not going to be any doors on that side that may motivate some not to.
Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, you are showing 3 entrances and exits facing Summer Street or Dry Dock Ave.
On your bill.
So that, just to give you some context, so that from, this area is in a floodplain, so this building does sit up quite high relative to Summer Street. We're about 6 or 7 feet higher to our first floor from some of the grades in Summer Street. So there is a raised terrace here that will have some retail access.
Got it.
But here, these are doors off at
That's
grade
the place.
from the main hotel lobbies. So the bulk of the activity is through the main hotel lobbies. There's just some small retailers that front on Summer Street.
And if I don't have that much, if I'm more inclined to use public transportation, what would be the closest public transportation site you might use? Because I will have to walk to that bus station or the Silver Line station or wherever.
So there's an existing MBATA station,
Right.
a bus stop right here.
Okay, so which,
And then the Silver Line runs.
but they don't have a stop line, so which magnifies your need to ensure that your pedestrians walk from this zone to the other zone, including all the ADA concerns. That's why we ask you to do the ramps on the opposite side. Okay. We love the work which you are doing, don't take me wrong. We just need to absorb your clientele in a respectful manner.
Understood.
So from a water and sewer perspective, the key to this entire project is getting your sewer service to the south side of Summer Street, which is slightly different from the site plan that was submitted.
Correct.
And you guys are up to speed on the reason for that, right?
Yes. You have a downstream pump station capacity
correct.
concern?
That is correct. It is, let's just say the marine terminal has a less than perfect master planning of its utilities. And we need you to avoid that pump station. You must get to the south side of Summer Street.
Sure. Yep.
And just to confirm, you're not making any adjustments to the actual curb line on Summer Street?
No adjustments to the curb line.
And just so you're aware, as you probably already are, BTD will be leading a process around looking at the Summer Street corridor, essentially from West Service Road to the Reserve Channel, and no doubt will be engaging with you in that process. Other questions or comments on this? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? Okay. See you guys on the 29th in 2 weeks.
Very good.
All right,
Thank you
well,
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next item is 200 American Legion Highway, West Roxbury, specific repairs on a petition by Brook Charter Schools.
Wilson from Niche Engineering. With me today is Evan Warner from STV on behalf of Brook Charter Schools. I'll give you a brief introduction of the project. The Brook Charter Schools are currently under construction for a new high school on this parcel here. And as part of the BTD coordination, this existing turn lane on American Legion Highway is to be extended, moving the curb approximately 250 feet. So the specific repairs associated.
Give me a second. I'm just trying to get the orientation. American Legion Highway is.
American Legion Highway is in this direction. This is further away. Maybe back to where the north arrow is. Maybe a little easier to orient.
No, it's okay. You can. So you want to extend the left turn lane?
So yes, we're extending the left turn lane on the southbound section of American Legion Highway.
How many trees are?
Kingsburg Road.
How many trees are being impacted by that?
There are 5 trees that are being impacted. We have had a tree hearing on it. The original proposal was to slide the trees over.
Okay, those trees was at a cost of about $700,000. That tree canopy was built, not to be just moved around. Okay, there was an alignment of those trees.
Yes.
So please be very careful on how those landscape plans are to be structured.
We have been looking at that, and the tree warden asked that we hire an arborist to evaluate it.
Right.
We have. We've received a report from them. They have recommended that we replace the trees because they do not feel that they can survive being
They are not. They
slid
are
over.
kill it.
And so we will be submitting that report back to the tree warden for.
So let's assume that the trees may not be able to survive. So you are going to take down 6 trees in lieu of it.
5 trees.
5 trees. I stand corrected. What will you do? Will you be planting some trees to supplement? All of those trees were planted at the request of the community that are in dire need of vegetation in that area.
We will be replacing all 5 trees to the
Where?
specifications of the city.
Where will you replace them?
They will be centered in the middle of the new island. So essentially the same location, only a few feet to the east. So
The intent is to align them with the smaller island that already has the turn lane. So we'll in essence be centered and marching up from that existing line and making a similar transition just further up, further to the north on American Legion Highway.
So it'll look like it was meant to be like that?
Yeah, exactly. And the tree folks have, sorry.
I understand what you are trying to do, but I am doing a poor job communicating my concerns. Those trees were planted about 10-15 years ago, plus or minus, and they have attained a certain height and an alignment. So just because you replace it with a 2-inch caliper, tiny little tree off center is not going to give the necessary look. Okay? So we need to know the size of the tree that you are going to replant if it is not going to survive.
So,
want to achieve the maximum canopy that can be achieved. Okay, first of all, you're going to lose out on a visual corridor, a view line, because it's going to be off-centered now. So if you're planting a new tree, what size trees are you going to plant?
So at March 1st tree hearing, the folks had said a replacement size is a minimum of 2.5 caliper.
Minimum.
Understood. What we're proposing is 3 to 3.5 caliper, which is on the larger variety, but still within. Once you start getting over 3.5 caliper, even if it's a nursery replacement, the stress and survival rate of those larger trees is at issue. So it's a recommendation of the landscape architect and our arborist to, and we initially looked at sliding these existing trees over due to the size and the constraints there. They don't, the belief is that they will not survive. And so the proposal is to replace those with the kind of the largest viable 3 to 3.5 caliper trees of exactly the same species, and these alternate tree to tree from red oak to a white swamp oak. So they requested that we replace them in kind. So where we're taking out a swamp white oak, we're replacing with a swamp white oak.
Stating for the public hearing, let us know the caliber of the tree that is there today, so that way it is on the public record. And you are proposing something that is 3.5 inches versus what is there today. And will you be maintaining those trees? Because the new trees that are going to be planted, will you be maintaining them at least until it establishes some growth?
Yeah. So we've the tree folks are looking for a two-year reassessment, and since we have a project literally right across the street, the owner and maintenance staff will be responsible for making sure that these are getting extra water during drought or dry times, et cetera, et cetera. We have every vested interest in making sure that these new trees survive and thrive in this location.
Moving back kind of towards the transportation engineering. So what is the vehicle storage capacity of the left turn today, and what will be the vehicle storage capacity of the left turn when the project's finished?
Unfortunately, I don't have our traffic engineer with us. Do you know that offhand?
I do not know that.
I can get you that information.
And have they submitted a warrant analysis for this and shown what the queues are and what the need is for storage and all
I
that?
would hope that they've been working with Don Burgess. I think this is where it came from, is basically because of the school buses and the length of the queue that's needed for that. I'll check with Don with as far as signalization, the queue length, the timing and stuff.
Is that part of this project, I assume, is the actual retiming of the signal? The adjustments of the signal?
Yes.
They have submitted 100% plans to BTD, and we have not received any final comments. I don't know if they've been fully accepted, but they are well within the process.
I'll follow up with Don.
Just to connect,
Well, I was just going to finish the thought of you're going to incur significant expense for these trees to extend this left turn pocket. I'd like to make sure, I don't know what the full build out potential of the area is, but let's not do it again.
So I think as we've been through the last few items, this is all part of the build-out for the.
So we're good.
Yeah, this Kingsborough. It's gone
This
through
is the
public
last
improvement.
vacant
This is the
parcel in
last
that,
phase.
in that Kingbird.
Yeah.
And imagine Don may have this, but just to connect Par's comments with these, it'd just be interesting to understand what's the reduction of things like delay at this intersection by adding the left turn lane. There is, because there's going to be at least an initial reduction in canopy, there's going to be an initial reduction in our ability to actually handle urban heat island issues or particulate issues. I'd like to be able to sort of understand this actually will potentially reduce emissions in this location because of the addition of the left turn lane. Just to be able to put in context the value of the left turn lane for the loss of what are currently a larger set of trees.
Yes, because, I mean, when the city rebuilt American Legion Highway, it's been a few years. Our desire was to recreate something like VFW Parkway. And we went through massive city expense to create that tree line and that growth and that canopy. So this is a serious issue, not just for the community, but for the city in its initial investment. So we need to balance these matters. And just because the Parks Department says a minimum 2.5-inch caliper, sir, that's minimum. And it doesn't compare to the size of a tree that is there today. So do share with us, spare us the need to go measure the caliber of the tree that is there today, so that we can. Okay, so that way we can make a comparison of with a 5-inch diameter tree that is going to be replaced by a 2-inch.
Other questions or comments? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? Okay. See you guys in 2 weeks. Does that work for you? All right, Chelsea, thanks so much. All right. Our next item is 126 Brookline Avenue and 1365 Boylston Street, Boston proper. Specific repairs on a petition by Changing Environments, SUFA.
Thanks for great ADA compliance in this building. Commissioners, thank you so much for having us today. My name is Sandra Richter. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a startup called SUFA. We were founded out of the MIT Media Lab about 4 years ago. You might have seen some of our benches around town, charging up people's phones with the power of the sun. And we have a new product that we've launched, the SUFA sign, and we're here today to petition to place 2 SUFA signs into locations within Boston.
Maybe who's preparing the civil engineering plans? Who is the consultant?
Pardon?
The consultant who is preparing these plans for you, who is there?
And there should be an engineering stamp on the paperwork that you
see. Right. I have a person named James Stroke.
Yes.
Which company does he work for? Because the plans are a little bit unconventional.
The plans are unconventional.
Maybe slightly unconventional.
Right, so we have been working with them to get these guys into PIC format. We're trying to
without huge expense to you.
Right, so we want the details to be stamped and engineered, and as far as the location, we're going for a very similar layout to what the bid provided for their informational.
A general area rather than a
Right,
specific.
so that like it's the general area, and then it's a blow up as to where specifically within our roadway we are on the clearances, but the actual only engineering on there is with the detail of what will be installed and how deep that will embed in our sidewalk.
The specific repair is extremely minute in terms
Right,
of-
it's just placement within our sidewalk, and it's only bolted down. This is not
It's a half-inch diameter bolt that goes in 4 inches. That's all it is.
My apologies.
No, no worries. It is unusual that 4 bolts can do the trick
I-
for something like this.
What are we being bureaucratic madness here? But
Yeah, no. So it's solar powered also, as well as the benches. So that means that it allows really for like an off-grid, non-intrusive installation, which you can see on the plans. Meaning there's no necessary fiber or power line for the installation. It is a 10 minutes to install into concrete ground.
Who is owning these? Are they owning?
Yep.
And why do they get to put this stuff on our street?
So in the
Partnership with Samuels and Associates.
I'm sorry?
Samuels and Associates, which is the owner of the property that surrounds the sidewalk. They have we've worked with them to find the best placement. They have one of our units actually on Landmark Center, right by the REI that's there. And so these two were identified as a complement to the private land that currently occupies one. So we worked with them to identify the 2 best spots that complement their property.
And this area is under an LMI with Samuels.
So what are these things? What do they do?
That's my question.
Yeah, like
Is it a
advertising.
wayfinding sign? Is it a map?
Wait, yeah.
So actually, maybe, yeah, I don't know, do you want to maybe give that up front so they have a closer look and frame? They have, there's a stack over there, also Tim on my backpack.
So if information can be given on it, will there be advertising on it?
Pardon?
Is there going to be advertising revenue for you based on advertising on this?
Yeah, so they're advertising supported, but it's less than 50% advertising on those units.
And is the city, maybe someone much smarter than me has to
Yeah,
figure
I
that
mean,
part out.
we're embarking on our, how we get digital signage and what that looks and feels like, and the advertising associated with it, from everything starting at an electronic billboard down to a very simple wayfinding screen.
Yeah, so we just need to be careful so that nothing is lost in the translation. There are 2 zones or more than 2 zones where possible advertising can become an issue for us. One, the remaining surface of this area that is not electronic, just because we allow you to install this doesn't give you the permission to put anything over here. That's part 1. Part 2 is the part where it is going digital, and maybe
Right, so
someone.
that's what we're working now with the BPDA about what our requirements are, what can be shown, when it can be shown,
And
our
what revenues
agreement
are
with the
shared,
co.
what revenues are shared with the city.
Right.
Because this is city space that is being given to you. We love what you do, but there needs to be an understanding of partnership.
Yeah, No, and I mean, we're very much in accordance of a good partnership with the city. We have been, for the last 4 years. I hope at least that comes across. Our main intention here is really to frame this as a community bulletin board and to have healthy content on our streets. So we've been lucky to have one of our first units in Kendall Square. And we have, like from the farmers market, being able to announce when the times are to like yoga in the park. That is the type of information we want to see. Pardon?
No, it's all exciting stuff. And if there's a third party that wants to go piggyback on your structure now, whether it is a telecommunication company or any person who wants to install their equipment on your asset, you need to talk to us. Because these are at the right height. That is massively advantageous to a host of entities, not just for Wi-Fi telecommunications, but from pure old-fashioned ad revenue.
Yep.
Okay.
Sandra, there's one of these across in Sam Adams Park, right by Faneuil Hall, right?
Yep.
So, how different are you in either design or in content, or others, but how different would these be than what are right up front of our building?
So they're more power efficient, so we work very hard on that. So that means that we can actually support the hours of operations of transit. So that's a big component for us is the support of real-time transit information. So as you see on the bottom, we actually feed from the API that we access to know when the next buses are coming. And so we'll actually be able to show that for the hours of operation. The other thing that is different, so we're using a little bit of a larger electronic paper display so that we're in compliance with letter sizes in terms of like readability. But they're still, I mean, they're relatively small. It's a pedestrian-focused application for sure.
There's obviously been a large interest, as you guys are aware, in a digital display. Is this the same sort of e-ink type, sort of almost like flat display rather than a dynamic one? Is that right?
Yes, yeah, so it's what you would call either static digital or electronic paper. So we're actually working with also a Boston-based company called E-Ink, which makes the Kindle, which is an electronic paper reader that you can read very well on the beach. So what that means is that actually when the sunshine really hits it, it even gets better in terms of legibility. It uses almost no power, and it is more like a higher resolution, so it's more like a magazine you would imagine, kind of in a black and white. So it's black and white grayscale in terms of displaying content, which also kind of further like underlines our notion of like information first. So yes, I agree, we should be working on revenue shares and revenue as a whole in order to bring more smart street furniture and great things to the city of Boston. But for us, really primary right now is to say we want to make great content for the citizens of Boston and engage them with content that is relevant to them.
And we hope so too, because when there's great content, people are going to congregate there. And when people follow, business interests follow, and then you're going to make money.
Yes.
And then we want to share that goodwill.
Yep. So like the Joel Sklar, who's the COO, I believe, of Samuels and Associates, is also on the board of the Main Streets, and we wanted to kind of like give a first petition here, talk about, get a sense of what the temperature is in the room, so to speak, towards this technology. But as you said, there is a huge opportunity for economic development, for reaching neighborhoods that are traditionally not being, served this type of technology.
So the Transportation Department been on record for all of this. I mean, digital boards, digital Vision Zero is now coming from the park to the street, which gives us, a little hesitation because of distracted driving, pedestrians not paying attention. This is a big concern. And, there's certain areas in the city that are zoned for this type of technology and, lighting. So again, we're really going to have to scrutinize where these are being placed. The front of sidewalk is definitely not where I would like to see them. Probably on the back of sidewalk, if anything. Secondly, I don't know what the city's corporation agreement is with the code. I mean, does this violate this? Greg, that's probably a concern for you. is, you know, we're putting out a competitor now, you know, to what the city franchise agreement is already out there, so that needs to be discussed. Third thing is Samuel's involved. We're not doing this for community, I mean, somewhat messaging, this is for profit, okay? Let's not kid anybody.
Exactly.
So, you know, what is the business plan for growing this, and where are we looking to extend this technology? So those are questions that I'm gonna be looking for.
So I think the first one I can take, and maybe then Tim Piccarilli from our team can answer too. So in terms of Vision Zero, so it is actually not a backlit display, which is a big difference to like normal LCD screens. So it is front lit, and it also, like, since it doesn't have motion, it actually is less distracting than any of the other digital displays that you currently see in the Boston streetscape. So like we're not, from our experiments with, you know, in the public, like we don't see that as an issue.
Is there a study on that you can forward to us?
There is actually, and also, so the Christian Science Plaza is utilizing our technology on this very historic ground, so we've been selected as a technology that actually is feasible for this type of environment, given the nature of electronic paper.
That's my point, is that it's on the mall at the Christian Science Center within a park area, not on the physical street. Where Vision Zero is a concern that we're trying to reduce the accident rate for pedestrians, bicyclists, and automobiles. So parks are great. I have no problem with that. But when we're adding the mix of different uses of the roadway and we're putting something like this up, it's definitely a concern.
So, I mean, it's from the locations that we're talking about, we went there and made sure that we addressed those concerns. And in terms of the GCDCO contract, so we're very well aware of the contract. We have the original wall document as well as the 2007 amendment that was signed by Jean-Luc Ducot. And we do not see ourselves in any sort of violation of this contract based on the fact that we're not an advertising structure. We are a structure where advertising is a part of, but it is different given that there is wayfinding, that there is transit, and actually less than 50% of advertising.
No commercial.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, it's
not
nice.
kidding, okay?
Yeah.
No, that's not what I said. I said it's less than 50%. So
But it is. It's 50% of it could be advertising.
less than 50%, yes.
15 or 50? My ears. Did you say
30%,
less?
approximately 30%.
So it's less than 50,
Yeah.
50, which is 49.9 is also less than 50. I'm just trying to get
Yeah.
very,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So it is commercially driven, let's be frank about it. And how many locations are you contemplating? Not today in your business plan. You know, someone thought this is a great opportunity for eye height within sidewalk space. Gee, what a marketing. Okay, so how many spaces?
I would offer some context on that question, which that the we here, I think, is a collective we, that they were collectively trying to solve a wayfinding question here. That there's been a number of conversations that have existed already about how we think about wayfinding in the city. So while and this gets, I think, fundamentally the questions that are being raised, how we think about the expansion of wayfinding infrastructure that has an advertising component in a way that doesn't conflict with TCO, in a way that is done with visitors. I think these are the things we need to, over the next 2 weeks, we need to sort of work through.
And we're happy to answer any questions around that for sure.
As long as it is being rolled out in that context, I think that is fine. It cannot be discrete because some of our other programs may have had some awkward moments.
Yeah. So I mean, we would love to be in great neighborhoods within Boston, and we would love to work in particular with economic development. Like that's one of our major goals, to say even if advertising, to make it local. And being here today for me actually is also, you know, it's great that we're here at this commission. We're talking about public improvement, and I know that there's a lot of regulations in place, a lot of contracts in place, but I think this is an amazing solution for the public, and we've gotten like amazing feedback. We have people sending us things they want to post onto the signs, and it's a true combination of public engagement, wayfinding, transit, and yes, it is advertising supported because this is how we are able to bring great infrastructure into our public realm.
So I second that motion, and I think that, you know, this is what happens when you're the first one through the door. You guys are pioneering something, so you are the ones that get to figure it out for everybody else that comes behind you, and that comes with the territory. But I personally believe this is the future of wayfinding, and it's going to be springing up in cities everywhere. So if we want to continue to be on the leading edge, we need to embrace it. I think you just need to balance that with the real concerns of a bicyclist plowing into somebody because they're reading, So citing is important. You've got to take to heart all these things that come, the fact that you will enjoy the pleasure of using public realm for your profit business, but we will do that because there are so many ancillary benefits. I think you did a great job in choosing what you show on display here with the T timings. I think that would be a huge benefit. So I'm encouraged by this proposal. I think you just need to work with us and have patience working with the governing body to figure out the right way to get it done.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
hope it's successful.
Thank you. And maybe just one side comment to that. So with the city of Las Vegas and actually the downtown area, which is not like the flashy strip, we've been working on adding that to BRT and shuttles. And we really see a huge success there from people knowing when the buses are coming and like encouraging public transportation and biking, showing where bike stations are and things like that. And it's definitely our
Integrating it with Hubway and things like that. And I really like that there's no conduits.
That's right. I think one thing, if this does move forward to our collective points, I think it would be very valuable to have some sense of what an evaluation plan would look like. How do we know this is how do we know this is helping people use bike share, get on a bus, or have a better public experience? And so, however, if at the public hearing, if you could talk a little bit about what the evaluation plan looks like, that would be helpful for us to understand this in that context.
And talking again about that wayfinding and bus schedules, and this is not really the area that you're looking for right here.
Yeah.
This is not really one of those areas. I mean, if you're looking at Rosenville Square, Grove Hall, Mattapan Square, where you have those kind of facilities, you need economic development. Those are the areas that we should be looking at to have that technology, build up those areas.
Yep.
Right? Good point.
We would love to include those areas for sure.
I do think I should remember which bus is on Boylston Street. You've got that 55, I think, on
39.
Brookline Ave, 39, right? I mean, so like there are places. Anyway, how you from this proposal sort of actually guide people to make those sort of transit decisions, it would be of interest. So.
I think, as you all know, a lot of it is politics, and part of this strategy is also to making sure that we have someone who's like on the Main Street board in line with us. So this was a very strategic decision, so that we can also like go in and serve the neighborhoods, for example, that you just mentioned.
Yeah, you need high visibility, and then you can roll it out. But equity is very important.
Believe me, I'm very well aware. We have SUFA benches in a lot of places, and we're very proud that across the gamut, everybody uses our SUFA bench to charge their phones, and we are sure that the same is true for the SUFA sign.
So I think for the public hearing, I think a look at the DECO piece, the provision of the study. Yep.
Could you pass that along to Chow?
The what?
To the attorney, PIC staff attorney? Chong. That was again. To Chong, I'm sure he's going to work with Greg and stuff, just that he gets.
Yeah.
And then the evaluation plan would be great as well.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
There's a whole other action.
Exactly. Same conversation. Our next item is 140 Brighton Ave in Brighton, specific repairs on a petition by Changing Environments. Super.
Here we are reaching a new community.
That's right. And just like that.
One that we're very excited about. So one of the interesting things actually about this plan is that in the current location is a old school bulletin board. In fact, when we talk about the SUFA sign, we try to avoid the word smart city kiosk or this like one size fits all solution, but really talking about it as a community bulletin board. And that's the analogy that we're using for, and then that specific location. And you have the plan on the second page here. It's definitely also a very vibrant community where there's a lot of community content to be displayed, and where we see a huge opportunity, in particular reaching. Like when you start something, it's often good to get like the young crowd engaged, and one of the things that we
I want the old crowd.
You're engaged.
You can send me content anytime, and I will put it up on the SUFA sign.
I'm ready to do it.
so those will be one of the locations. Talking about evaluation, so we're also trying to understand like different dynamics in different neighborhoods, and that's why we wanted to add it in here.
Can you have I assume the Main Streets, you talked to Main Streets, they're supportive of this location and this idea?
Yeah.
Can you just have a letter from the
Yes.
Main Streets Director about, for that, for the 29th?
Yeah, and so I think this is kind of, again, this getting our feet wet, making sure that we go the right steps.
So you had a very noteworthy intersection of Harvard and Brighton, just up the street at Commonwealth Avenue, Harvard and Commonwealth, if we can visualize it.
Yep.
That is, we are trying to create the Boston version of Coolidge Corner, okay, and really creating a pedestrian place over there. So hopefully we have your encouragement to translate this technology to the space that is being created at the intersection of Commonwealth Avenue and Harvard.
Yeah.
It's more like we are trying to create an outdoor living room, which means lots of people sitting there and enjoying. It's the same clientele which I think you are trying to reach.
Yeah.
So your type of fixture might be extremely complementary to what we are proposing over there. So that being the case, will you be receptive to implementing your technology just
Yeah, and I
upstream?
mean, to the earlier point about parks versus streets, one comment that the Parks Commissioner in New York City made was parks without borders. And I really like that phrase because it really thinks about like how can the park also be part of our streets. And as you said, you know, the living room, the like bringing people together is a great notion that we see there. We do have the opportunity also to customize so that it's very little color because we wanted to keep it simple, but the side has this like red strip. In Kendall Square it's orange because we want to be in sync with also the identity that is being crafted there. So to your point, like we're happy to make also on the back where it's kind of like this final wayfinding piece to make any adjustments. We did that at the Sam Adams statue right next to it. Have like the Boston branding to support, you know, the iconography that is currently built in those neighborhoods.
We are way past time. Just a very quick point. Is the city allowed to have any of its content on the screen? For example, snow emergency or go to the library, read a book.
Yep, I would hope so. And
So we have that right.
Yep. And actually, we're working with one of our partners on a logic in the system that, like, an emergency notification overrides the rotation, so that we can actually start broadcasting, saying, okay, now this is the information we want to broadcast on those different devices for public safety reasons. That is definitely something we want to include.
The previous action had sidewalks that were under an LMI with Samuels. Is this a city sidewalk location, or is this location also under an LMI?
So this is a public sidewalk.
Yeah, it's replacing
Static. An existing billboard, or
Paper
existing
billboard,
bulletin board. Got it. Okay.
That is currently not getting any love at all. So like we're bringing the bulletin board into the 21st century.
Got it. All right, so the same things apply on this one as this action. See you guys on the 29th? In 2 weeks?
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.